Hi, I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and welcome to Regal Fare, where I'll show you how to create simple and elegant meals just like we do at some of the finest restaurants in this country. Today we're going to prepare a warm bread salad with basil and artichoke, then we're going to make a roasted salmon with zucchini and prosciutto, then we'll have a chocolate cake with a little fresh blackberries with a little fresh chantilly cream. So we're going to go ahead and get right into making our chocolate cake. So here I have 2 tablespoons of rum. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add it to this pan. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of espresso. So we can heat that up. And we're going to melt in a ½ pound of butter. So this is going to be the base for our chocolate cake. We're just going to incorporate these items and create a nice liquid base to melt our chocolate in. So we're melting our butter, we're heating our espresso. To this we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar. I have 1/3 cup here. So we're going to get this thoroughly melted. Once the butter's melted, we're going to add our chocolate. Almost hot. Whisking as you go helps keep the butter emulsified. Almost to a boil. Just a little hotter. Then we can drop our chocolate in and shut this burner off and just stir to melt the chocolate. So once all the chocolate is melted, we're going to fold in 2 eggs. And then we can, so we're just going to let this sit here as the chocolate melts. And I'm going to take a little bit more butter and I'm just going to line the inside of a removable bottom pan with a little bit of butter. That'll help keep the cake from sticking. And do that to both of these. Just want to get a nice layer of butter so that the cake won't stick. It'll keep the cake from sticking to the sides and the bottom of the pan as it bakes. So nice and oiled. So our chocolate should be just about melted here. So we have our thoroughly melted chocolate. So now we can take 2 eggs, add them one at a time. It's better to add the eggs one at a time. It tends to be a little difficult to add a large volume of eggs into this batter. One more egg. So now that we have our batter complete, I'm going to go ahead and pour this into our cake molds, and we're going to bake this at 325 degrees for about 35 minutes, just until the cake is set. So now we have a thick, rich, creamy chocolate cake batter. No flour, delicious rum flavor, a little bit of the bitterness of the espresso. We can just pour this right in, just like that, about 3/4 of an inch up the side of our mold. So I'm going to pop these into a 325 degree oven, again for about 35 minutes. We're going to go ahead and clean all this up. We'll come right back and make our salmon. Welcome back. So our chocolate cakes are almost ready, and we're going to go ahead and start on our salmon. So I'm going to go ahead and start a salmon broth. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to start by crisping up a little bit of prosciutto in the bottom of this pan. Just going to get a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in here. And once this oil is hot, I'm going to drop some of these pieces in here. I'm going to fry this so that it gets nice and crispy. That'll give the oil a delicious prosciutto flavor, and that'll actually give us a nice couple pieces of prosciutto to garnish with. So we just want to fry these for just a few moments, just until they're crisp. And that oil is going to take on a really delicious prosciutto flavor. And then we'll have these nice little crispy pieces of prosciutto that we can garnish with at the end. Really get it down in there, let it really fry. Let some of that oil really pick up that delicious prosciutto flavor. And let the prosciutto get crispy. So now that we have our prosciutto fried, we can take this out. and we can go ahead and start sauteing our vegetables. So I have here some celery. I have some white onion. I have some carrot. And a little bit of fennel. So we can just let all of these start to cook in here. You just want to let these cook down until they start to get a little translucent. Okay, so we just want to let these vegetables cook just until they start to lose a little bit of their texture, start to get a little softer, a little bit of the sweetness starts to come out of them. Just going to let these keep sauteing here for a couple moments. So while we're letting our vegetables roast, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by sauteing some purple red onions. I'm going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil here. And I'm going to just drop these onions right into this hot pan. Just going to let these move around, just get a little bit of color on them. Our vegetables are cooking nicely here. It's going to make a really excellent base for our tomato broth here. So again, we're getting just a little bit of color on our onions. You can see that now we're getting just a little bit of caramelization on the outside of the onions here. Just going to let these guys, flip all these guys over, get a little color on the other side. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit of white wine vinegar now that our onions have a little bit of color. And we're just going to let these cook. So now that our onions and carrots and celery and fennel are nice and cooked, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of chili and a little bit of black pepper. And we're just going to stir this in just so that it takes a little bit of that chili flavor on and the extra virgin olive oil that we have in here so that that oil picks up a really nice flavor. That'll eventually go into our broth. So now that we have all of our spices toasted, we can add a little bit of chopped whole tomato. So we can go ahead and we can just stir all these tomatoes in. So we can just let this continue to cook, just like this, just for another few moments, just until the tomatoes have started to lose a little bit of their liquid. So these onions we can just pull off now and get this pan hot. So now that we have our broth going and our onions cooked, we can go ahead and we can start sauteing some fennel here. I've broken some fennel bulbs down into these nice little big wedges like this, and we can just start sauteing them on both sides. We just want to get a little bit of color on each side. I'm just going to get these guys in here. And our stock is cooking down very nicely. It's got that delicious prosciutto flavor. It's got the sweetness of all of our sweat vegetables, and it's got a lovely bit of acidity from the tomatoes. So this is looking really nice so far. Just going to let that cook a little bit longer. So we can go ahead and we can start to saute our salmon. Just wipe a little bit of the excess oil out of here. And we can go ahead and get this right down in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So I'm going to take our salmon and I'm going to just season this both sides with salt and pepper. A little salt on this side, a little salt on this side. And I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh ground pepper just on the flesh side because we don't want the pepper to burn when we go to saute our fish. So I'm just going to get this down in a warm pan. Just let this start crisping. So we have our fennel over here. These are starting to cook nicely. These can cook for just another few moments. So now that most of our tomatoes have lost most of their liquid, we can go ahead and we can add some aromatics. I'm going to add some marjoram sprigs and some thyme leaves. And I'm going to add just a little bit of white wine, about 1/4 cup. So our fennel wedges over here, they're just starting to get some nice color now. You just want to cook this just a little bit longer, just on this side. Our broth is coming down nicely, our salmon is cooking, our onions are pickled, and our fennel are coming along nicely. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of salt to our broth as this is cooking. Really accentuate that nice prosciutto flavor. Our salmon is roasting along nicely. I'm going to start to saute some squash and zucchini in this pan.
So I'm just going to add just a few pieces of zucchini, and just a few pieces of squash. Our salmon is crisping up nicely. We just want to let that cook right on the skin side for 3 or 4 minutes just to give a nice crispy skin, and then we'll flip it over. So these are all looking pretty good. We can flip our fennel. Starting to get a nice little bit of color on our fennel. These are roasting along very nicely. And we can see that our tomato broth is starting to come along very nicely. All the herbs are starting to fall down into the stock. The tomatoes are starting to become very pulpy and give up all their deliciousness. Our salmon is cooking very nicely. Just another few moments and we'll be able to flip it. The skin will be nice and crispy. Gonna get all these fennel flipped over. And let these keep cooking. Almost ready on the fennel. So we have our wine that's cooked for just a few moments here. We just want to let the wine cook off for just 2 or 3 minutes, just to let a little bit of that raw wine flavor come off of it. Let it reduce slightly. Now that the wine is cooked for a few moments, I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of plain water. We can let our broth continue to simmer here. Looking really delicious, really rich. Get those herbs down inside. Let the broth take on all that herbaceousness from the marjoram and the thyme. Our salmon skin is looking nice. Should be able to get under here. We can see that the skin is getting crispy. Maybe another minute on those. Now that we've got a little bit of color on the other sides of our fennel, I'm going to turn them on their backs here. Just to let them finish cooking. So these won't need much longer here. Just another couple moments. I'm actually going to bring these over here and just let these fennel keep carrying over. So we have almost all of our vegetables cooked here. So we can get ready to plate. Just another couple moments on our salmon here. And we see that we have a nice crispy skin on there, so we're just going to flip that over. I'm actually going to transfer this over here. Let the squash continue to cook, and I'm just going to let the salmon finish cooking like that. Should carry over quite nicely. So we can go ahead and we can flip our squash. You can see they have a nice little golden brown on them. We want to be careful not to overcook our squash. They'll get a little too soft. So just a little bit of color. So now we can go ahead and we can season all of our vegetables. We can season our fennel with a little salt and pepper. Season our red onions with a little salt and pepper. And again the squash, a little bit of salt and pepper. So now that all of our vegetables are almost ready, we can go ahead and we can start plating our vegetables. So I'm just going to take a few pieces of fennel, just arrange them around, just a few onions, and then we can take just a few pieces of zucchini, a few pieces of the summer squash. Now that we have all of our vegetables plated, we can go ahead and we can strain our sauce. So just to strain, I'm just going to pour this directly through a chinois. Let all that delicious broth just strain through. So now we have our finished tomato broth. So we can spoon just a little bit into the bowl. Just a little more here. Now we can take our salmon out. Should be just ready. We can lay this on top of the vegetables. We're going to take just a couple pieces of this crispy prosciutto and just arrange it around. I'm going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil here. And then we have just a few marjoram leaves just for the top. So here we have our roasted salmon with zucchini, fennel, squash, and our tomato prosciutto broth. We'll be right back, and we're gonna get started on our bread salad. Welcome back. We're gonna go ahead and get started on our bread salad. So to start this salad, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna roast this artichoke. So I'm just gonna peel all of these bracts back away from the heart. Just get them all separated off. This takes just a moment. Just take all these bracts off, just keep pulling back until they're all gone. So now that we're a little closer to the heart, we can start taking our paring knife and start taking this outer layer of the bracts off and go through, get it all separated down to the stem. Get all these little bracts taken off. Now we can see we're getting down to the heart. That's the white part on the underneath we're getting to. Get right here to the stem. Just get right in here. Take all this stem off. Take all the peel off the stem. Make sure you can take this right off. Come right in here. Just with a curving motion, we just want to get nice and close to the stem without taking as much of the stem off as possible. And we continue to peel until all of the heart is exposed. So now that we have all of the bracts removed, we can cut the bottom off. Now that we have the bottom removed, we can actually take a few more of these bracts off. These little purple guys might be a little tough here. So we can take just a little more off the bottom. And we can split it in half. So we're separating all the bracts away, and now that we have our artichoke cleaned, we can split it in half. And we can take just a spoon and just pull the choke out of here. We're just going to get right in there and take all this fibrous choke out. So we have almost all this out of here now. So we can just get this separated away. And now we're down to the artichoke heart here. Do the same thing with the other one. Just get all this bract and little choke separated. So now we have this, we can go ahead and start to saute our artichoke. So in just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, we can smash 1 clove of garlic, get it into the olive oil. We can just break our artichoke heart down into 6 little pieces and start roasting them. 3 pieces over here, 2. So now we can get all this cleaned up. Get all the artichoke mess away. So now we can go ahead and we can start sauteing some bread. So I've preheated a pan here. We're going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And we're just going to saute some of this torn bread. This is the pan francese from the Pan d'Avignon bakery in New York City. So we're just going to saute a little bit of that and some extra virgin olive oil. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our dressing now. So we're going to take just a little bit of Dijon mustard and a little bit of balsamic vinegar. And we're just going to emulsify some olive oil into the base of our dressing. So very slowly, we're just going to start whisking in just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil at a time, just so we have a nice emulsified dressing. Just little by little, until we have a nice, thick, rich, creamy dressing. So that should just about do it. It should be just enough dressing for a salad. So I'm going to go ahead and turn all of our artichokes. Get a little bit of color on them. Now we're getting a nice, beautiful golden brown on these. And turn them all over. And our bread's starting to get a nice little beautiful golden brown as well. So tossing that around. So I'm going to drop just one sprig of thyme in here in the olive oil. Let the thyme flavor really infuse into the olive oil, and then it'll go ahead and give that delicious herbaceous flavor to the rest of the artichokes. So we can season all this with a little bit of salt and pepper. We can season these with a little bit of pepper, and we can start our salad. So I'm going to take just a little bit of Treviso, a little bit of arugula, a little bit of frisee, a little more arugula, some chives that I just chopped, some shallots that I just minced, and a little bit of chiffonade basil. So to plate this, I'm going to take a little piece of the Vermont Creamery Cremant cheese. I'm just going to place a little sliver just in each little corner of this bowl. So we have our big piece of cheese here. We can take our roasted artichokes and our roasted bread. And we can add these warm artichokes to the bread. Just toss these to combine, and we can take all of our warm roasted bread and artichokes and add this right to the salad. We can just go ahead and season this salad with just a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we just toss to coat. Really excellent warm salad with a bunch of flavorful colors. The sweetness of the balsamic works really well with the acidity of it, and the bite of the shallot, and all the greens just really provide a nice canvas for all these delicious flavors. And that's really all it is. So here we have our warm bread salad with Cremant cheese, basil, and artichoke. We're going to get this cleaned up, and we'll be right back to present our dishes. Welcome back. So I've gone ahead and I've taken our cake out of its mold. I'm just going to go ahead and plate it. I'm just going to separate it right off the base of the mold here. Just put it right on the plate. So I just melted a little bit of chocolate and some heavy cream here in a double boiler. You don't want to put the chocolate directly on the flame. The steam heat actually heats this up very gently. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this ganache. I'm just going to drizzle it around the cake. A little bit on top of the cake. A little more on top of the cake. So now that we have our chocolate sauce down, I'm going to go ahead and take just a little bit of our chantilly cream. So all I did to make this was just whip a little bit of heavy cream, and I just added a little bit of vanilla extract and a little bit of castor sugar. So we just take one little scoop of our chantilly cream, and we can just arrange some blackberries around on the plate. Just anywhere is fine. Maybe one on top. So here we have our chocolate espresso torte with blackberries and chantilly cream. We also have our warm bread salad with basil, artichoke, and Cremant cheese. And then we have our roasted salmon with zucchini, pickled red onions, fennel, and our delicious prosciutto tomato broth. I'm Chef Ian Bromstead. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Regal Fare, and we'll see you next time.